Hello students, let us study why the DNA is a better genetic material than RNA. For a molecule to be acting as a genetic material, it must fulfill certain criteria, like it should be able to generate its replica, and it should be chemically structurally stable molecule, and it should provide facilities, or it should have scope for mutations, and it should express itself in the form of the Mendelian characters. Now these criteria is followed by DNA as well as RNA, and DNA is much suitable as a genetic material. So we'll consider all these criteria and see that how the DNA is functioning as the genetic material. By the rule of base pairing and complementarity, both the nucleic acids, DNA and RNA, have the ability to direct their replication. All the other molecules in the living system, like the proteins, fail to fulfill this criteria of replication. In Griffith's experiment of the transforming principle, the stability of DNA was very evident, and the two strands of DNA are complementary, and even if they are separated by the heat, they come together again when the appropriate conditions are given. Then chemically and structurally, because of the presence of thymine, the DNA has additional stability, and then RNA has got 2' position OH group, which is present at every nucleotide, and this group is a reactive group, so that makes the RNA reactive as well as easily degradable. Then RNA has uracil, which is comparatively less stable, and it is clear that chemically DNA is less reactive and structurally more stable when compared to the RNA. Then both DNA and RNA have the capability to mutate. So that is one of the criteria of the genetic material. So both are having the capacity to mutate. In fact, RNA being unstable can mutate at a very faster rate than the DNA. Then DNA expresses itself through the formation of messenger RNA, which forms the proteins, and RNA can directly code for the synthesis of proteins. So RNA can easily express the characters. So DNA and RNA both can express characters, but DNA is dependent on RNA for synthesis of proteins, but the RNA can synthesis directly. Now it can be concluded both DNA and RNA can function as the genetic material, but DNA being more stable and is less reactive, that is the preferred choice for the storage of genetic information. So RNA is better for the transmission of the genetic information, but for the storage of genetic information, it is the DNA. Which was the first genetic material, RNA or DNA? There is enough evidence to prove that RNA was the first genetic material. Number of essential life processes like metabolism, protein synthesis, splicing of genes, all these evolved around RNA. And RNA used to act as the genetic material as well as a catalyst or enzyme, and a number of important biochemical reactions are catalyzed by the RNA catalyst, not by the enzymes. This RNA is is a catalyst, so it is very reactive, and so it is unstable. During evolution, DNA evolved from the RNA with certain chemical modifications that made the DNA more stable than the RNA, and the DNA is a double stranded one, which has got the complementary bases and strands which resist the changes. So RNA was the first genetic material. In 1953, Watson and Crick proposed the double helical structure of DNA, and they suggested the mechanisms of replication of DNA. So they suggested two strands of DNA molecules unwind and separate from each other in a zipper like fashion, and this occurs due to the breakage of the hydrogen bonds present between the nitrogen base pairs. So each strand acts as a template for the synthesis of the new strand, and the bases in the strand decide the complementary bases to be present in the new strand. Complementary sets of nucleotides get attached to the bases of the old strand by base pairing, that is adenine pairs with thymine and cytosine pairs with G or guanine, and the result is the formation of two new daughter DNA molecules which are identical to each other and to the parent molecule. Each daughter DNA molecule has one strand from the parent and one is new. During replication, half of the original DNA molecule is conserved and the complementary half is newly synthesized by base pairing. This is called the semi-conservative mode of replication of DNA. Semi-conservative method is the most common method of DNA replication, and experimental proof was given by Michelson and Stahl. They conducted experiments and explained the semi-conservative mode of replication. This was obtained by Matthew Michelson and Franklin Stahl in 1958. They carried out a series of experiments in the bacteria Escherichia coli and explained this. In the experiment, they grew the bacterium Escherichia coli for many generations in a medium containing heavy isotope of nitrogen N15, and the medium contained ammonium chloride as the only source of nitrogen, and the ammonium was labeled with the N15 nitrogen. And the heavy DNA molecule could be distinguished from the normal DNA by centrifugation in a cesium chloride density gradient. These bacterial cells containing N15 were then transferred to a medium containing the normal nitrogen with normal ammonium chloride at specific times corresponding to the replication time of DNA. Samples were taken and DNA was isolated by the high speed centrifugation and evaluated for its density. The place where DNA settled down gave its density gradient, and after the bacterial cells had multiplied once, that is after 20 minutes, the density of DNA was intermediate between the heavier N15 DNA and the lighter N14 DNA, and it was possible only when the DNA contained equal amounts of N15 and N14. and this is exactly what happens when each strand acts as a template and uses the new material to make another strand during replication. Here N15 strand acted as a template and made a new complementary N14 strand from the raw material available. So each new DNA molecule had one N15 and one N14 strand, and so had the density midway between N15 and N14. Then after the second replication, that is after 40 minutes, the DNA extracted from the culture showed that the density of one half of the DNA was between N15 and N14, identical to the one which was obtained during the first replication, and the other half was in the N14 density region. So it did not contain any new heavy nitrogen or N15. So this confirmed the semi-conservative mode of replication. So DNA extracted from the culture contained equal amount of hybrid DNA and the light DNA. Then similar experiments involving radioactive thymidine to detect the distribution of newly synthesized DNA in the chromosome were performed by some other scientists like Taylor and Kelly in 1958 on Vicia faba, that is a bean. And they also proved that the DNA replicate semi-conservatively. Now we will study about the replication of DNA. The replication of DNA in prokaryotes and viruses like the prokaryotes like bacteria, they have a single circular molecule of DNA, and the DNA molecule is much smaller in comparison to a single chromosome of any eukaryote. There is no beginning or end, but there is only one origin of replication, and from this point of origin two replication forks move, and each replication fork makes a replica of the original chromosome, and so in the end two identical daughter DNA circles are formed. The DNA dependent DNA polymerase is the main enzyme that catalyzes the polymerization of deoxynucleotides. And there are many other additional enzymes also needed to complete the process of replication. Now when you come to the replication of DNA in eukaryotes, eukaryotes contain giant DNA molecules. So each chromosome has hundreds of different origins of replication, and it is a very complex process involving a number of enzymes and other protein factors. Now, as the DNA molecule is very long, two strands of the DNA cannot be separated to its entire length due to various high energy requirements. The replication occurs within a small opening of the DNA helix, which is called as the replication fork, and each individual zone of a chromosome replicates as a separate section, which is called as a replicating unit, and which can vary in length from 10,000 to 1 million base pairs. Then the advantage of having multiple origins of replication is the speed. Replication takes about 8 hours in a human cell, and the DNA dependent DNA polymerase catalyzes the polymerization only in one direction, that is from the 5' to the 3' direction on the DNA. Now in a DNA double helix, one strand runs from the 5' to the 3' direction, while the other one is from the 3' to the 5' direction. Hence, on the template which runs from 3' to the 5' direction, the addition of nucleotides will be from the 5' to the 3' direction. So on this strand, the replication is continuous and it is said to be the leading strand. On the other template, which runs from 5' to the 3' direction, the addition of nucleotides is from the other end, that is in the 5' to the 3' direction, and the replication is discontinuous, and this strand is called as the lagging strand. In this figure, you can see the DNA double helix. One strand runs from the 5' to the 3' direction, while the other one is from the 3' to the 5' direction. So the template which runs from 3' to the 5', the addition of nucleotides will be from the 5' to the 3' direction. So on this strand, the replication is continuous, and we call that strand as the leading strand. And on the other one, the template one, there it is running from the 5' to the 3' direction. So the addition of the nucleotides is from the other end, that is from the 5' to the 3' direction. And the formation or the replication is discontinuous. So that strand is called as the lagging strand. Then all the discontinuously synthesized fragments, which are called as the Okazaki fragments, are joined together by the enzyme DNA ligase. The DNA polymerase cannot initiate the process of replication on its own randomly from any place in the DNA. There are definite regions, and these are termed as the origin of replication. The process of replication requires a set of catalysts, the enzymes in all living cells. The main enzyme is the DNA dependent DNA polymerase, and which is called as the DNA dependent as it uses a DNA template to catalyze the polymerization of the deoxynucleotides. Then these enzymes, the replication enzymes, are highly efficient and they are very fast, as they have to catalyze the polymerization of a large number of nucleotides in a very short time. And these enzymes have a very high degree of accuracy also. And since all these catalytic reactions need energy, the process of replication is very expensive process. In addition to DNA polymerase, replication of DNA needs a number of enzymes and factors like the DNA helicase. These are special unwinding enzymes which help in breaking the hydrogen bonds between the two DNA strands. Then there are topoisomerases. These can break and reseal one strand of DNA. And there are DNA primerases which helps in the formation of primer. Primer is actually a short RNA segment which is formed on the DNA template. Then DNA polymerases can link free DNA nucleotides to form the complementary strand of the DNA. And then there is a DNA ligases which can join together the short sections of the newly formed pieces of polynucleotide chains, the Okazaki fragments. Then there are various repair enzymes which there can be a few errors during the replication. So these repair enzymes, they can cut off the wrong bases and replace them with the correct ones. So all these are very useful enzymes in the replication of DNA.